Odds are when you hear the name Valeton, you start to think of the GP5 or GP50. This is a phenomenal value multi-effects processor pedal, but it's not for everybody. So for folks who prefer to have the analog experience, the Loft series might be what you're looking for. These come in between $59 and $89. And the cool thing with them is they're easy to dial in tones, and there's a range of different effects here which I'll showcase throughout this video. Each pedal is packed in their own little box like this. It comes with a Velcro strip and also a little rubber strip. So if you don't plan on putting it on a pedal board, you've got that rubber strip option, or you can just leave it off altogether. They get one of these nice little cards here which explain exactly what the pedal's features are. You're about to hear 7 or 8 of these little pedals being recorded in the context of a jam track, and then we'll get over to some isolated tones and I'll give you a full rundown of how they work. Let's get into it. Welcome back, folks. My name's Shane. I hope you like that little jam track. If you're into budget effects, please drop a thumbs up. This range is very surprising. I would have no problems using most of these for a pedal board. So what I'm going to do is talk about the ones I would choose personally for my particular style of music if I was to buy these and plonk them on a little travel board or just a compact setup board. I'll do that at the end of the video, but I'll give you a quick rundown of what's familiar with these. So you might realize that they have a very familiar look to them. They do look a lot like Boss pedals. They also have a very similar soft switching system as well, which I really like. It doesn't have that hard click like you'll find on a lot of pedals, but these are 100% analog. We get magnesium alloy construction on each of these, which is insane considering the price. Now, I've been reviewing effects pedals for such a long time, and the earlier, cheaper ones were usually plastic or they just sort of had a cheap feel to them. These feel like a really premium pedal. Being that these effects are so small, there's no room for an internal 9-volt battery, otherwise it would be taking up pretty much the whole thing here. So you will be powering these with a 9-volt power supply, and I'll leave my recommendation down in the description box. These are a true series of pedals, meaning that the build quality, the inputs and outputs, the power and all that kind of stuff are identical to each other. So if you're going to be plonking these next to each other on the board, they're going to look and be very uniform, which is always a good thing. Sometimes, you know, you might have a pedal with a jack out the top as opposed to the side. These are all the same. Before we get into this video, a massive thank you to Ernesto from Miguelka Ventures for sending these out and sponsoring this video. Just to let you know, while this video is sponsored, they don't get to preview this video ahead of time. And as per always, all thoughts about these are my own. What I'm going to do at the end of the video is talk about which ones I would pick if I was putting together a board for myself. And I'll explain why at the end of the video. Let's get into it. All right, let's kick it off. I'm plugged into my Fender Blues Deluxe on the clean channel. This is the clean tone. Now the Overdrive OD10 is a great pedal for both rhythm guitar and also lead, which we'll get to. This is with the gain at 9 o'clock. Yeah. Gain at 12 o'clock. Have a listen to this. It feels really good to play. This is a tube-driven overdrive. It's not actually, doesn't have a tube in there, but it's designed to emulate that. It does a really great job, especially for some of those sort of big lead guitar sort of solos you heard in the intro. That's great. It's such a cool sound. And the interesting thing with this pedal is you would think you would miss the tone control, but you don't. As long as you set up the amp clean in the way that you like it, this isn't going to affect the top end, which I really like. Cool thing with this too, if you turn down, it's actually going to clean up beautifully. Definitely has a bit of a mid hump as well, so it should cut the mix beautifully. This is the DS10 distortion pedal, which gives us 3 unique voicings. So we've got Ultra in the center, which was where we're going to start. Then we'll go down to the normal option and then click this toggle switch up to the tube option, which is really musical. The middle and the top are my 2 personal favorites, but I'll start with this guitar so you can hear exactly how it compares against the prior pedal. Oh man, that last one, that tube setting is awesome. Let's switch guitars. Over to my PRS SE Custom 24, what I'm going to do now is just experiment around with the gain and tone controls on a few of the different settings here, just so you can get a good sense of how it sounds with some humbuckers. But this is a really cool distortion if you're into some of those higher gain tones, this bridge. Man, that's got a lot of drive. That's cool. Over to the CS10 compressor pedal. This is a great choice if you're into country picking or funk rhythm guitar, or if you want to boost for a solo while also shifting your dynamics. So a compressor will bring down the loud sections and bring up the quiet sections, giving you sort of like a louder average or a louder sound thanks to the level control. Let's have a listen to this. So as you can hear, there's a massive difference there with this on and off. And if you mess with the sustain control over here, it will give you more perceived sustain. This is kind of like the compressor part of the effect here. So let's have a listen. I can really feel and hear that sort of making it louder, but also clamping down on my dynamics. So what a difference, right? That's the same attack. Yeah. I'm going to bring this down just a bit here. Bring the attack to the center. I'll play some rhythm guitar stuff for sort of funky style. I'm not much of a funk player, but here we go. Pedal off. Yeah, it feels great. It evens out your playing essentially, but if you've got a noisy guitar, it's going to bring up the noise floor as well because it is bringing up the quiet parts of your playing. But yeah, it feels really nice to play. This is the FP10 FET booster, which gives you up to 26 dB of clean boost, allowing you to get some really great drive tones from another overdrive or distortion. So I've set up the Overdrive OD10 just for my starting sound, and then we'll click the pedal on. Here we go. Man, that feels so good to play. Let us know what you think of the tones of that. I really like it. Now you've got a 2-band EQ, so if you want a fatter sort of bridge pickup tone, you can start rolling up the bass. Or you can run it like more of a treble booster. Or back off the treble. Gives you a much more mellow sound there, which is awesome. Now I'm just going to play a couple of chords and show you the low cut. I can't hear a huge difference with this in the room, but maybe you can on the recording, or maybe I'll be able to in editing, but have a listen. I can't hear that doing anything, but maybe it's more prominent like on the neck pickup. I'd say it's probably more obvious if you turn the bass up a little bit more, so let's try this. So that's where you feel it more. So if you've got this cranking, for example, and you just want to eliminate some of that low end, you can just flick this down. I can definitely hear a difference. It's Still very subtle though, even with it set like this. But yeah, just experiment around. As a clean boost, it works really well. The OC10 is an Octave pedal and it gives you two different bands to work with and a wet-dry control in the middle. I'm going to leave it set to 12 o'clock because it's always good hearing a bit of your actual dry signal coming back through. But have a listen to this. It's with it off to begin with, and we're going into the Overdrive OD10. Yeah, I dig it. That's awesome. Now, if you want to bring in the second octave, you can. I'll bring this up to about 10 o'clock. Now that's actually tracking the bends really well also. Just for kicks, I'll bring this to the right. So that's more of my dry signal. Now if I bring it this way, you're losing your dry signal. Have a listen. It doesn't track chords. I played one chord and that's all I'm going to do. But yeah, I definitely like having the blend or the mix control here at 12 o'clock, and then you can just bring these in. I'll kind of push both of them up now and we'll have a play on bridge pickup. Now I'll turn the overdrive off, and this is just the octave. That's kind of the sound I had in that intro jam. It's okay sometimes, but it definitely feels and sounds a lot better once you start combining Octave or this octave pedal with the overdrive pedal. It really does feel nice to play, and that's sort of the sound I'm more familiar with. But yeah, let us know what you think of this one. I really like it. If you're a fan of old school analog chorus pedals that give you that classic 80s reggae or southern rock rhythm sound, this is a really great option. It's only got two controls, which I love. We've got our depth and our rate on the left-hand side, which is essentially the speed control. I'll play a few different things here so you can get a good sense of how this sounds. Beautiful. And again, if you're on neck pickup, you can dial up the rate a little bit to make it faster. Here we go. If you have the depth too high, you will get that sort of C6 sound, so just experiment around with it, but this should sound much better now. Yeah, beautiful. Let us know what you think of this one. The Phaser PH10 gives you the classic phaser sound as well. Now, you can play with phaser with dirt and without. We're going to start though without any dirt, and I'll show you how it sounds on middle and bridge pickups together. Now I've got the rate at 12 o'clock and the depth most of the way up, so it's a prominent sound but without it being too fast. Here we go. If you want to speed it up, you can just bring this one up. And now we're with some humbuckers and some overdrive. Have a listen to this. Yeah, all right. One of the really cool things with phaser is you can dial them in for a really funky rhythm guitar tone. Even with some dirt, it still sounds very different to how it would sound with it off. Have a listen to this. Over to the FL10 Flanger, and I love the sound of this being hit with the overdrive. It's a really great combination for rhythm guitar stuff in particular, but you can solo with this, not a problem at all. But have a listen to this bridge. I mean, that's really musical. What I can do also is turn the depth down so it's less prominent. We can also change the speed and all that kind of stuff, but have a listen now. Yeah, it's got a very vocal quality to it. I dig it. So if we turn the depth down, it's going to be less prominent. The res is kind of like a bit of a frequency control thing, and I'll show you that right now. But what I wanted to do was also turn up the rate. We'll make it a little faster and less prominent, and we'll take a look at the res control here. I'll just play a few chords so you can get a good sense of what's going on. So it changes the frequency of the flanging effect. And yeah, you can kind of find the spot that works best for you. Somewhere around 12 o'clock or lower is my preferred sound, but it works really well. And lastly, I just want to show you the manual control over here. So this controls the delay time of the effect. So with it all the way to the left, the flanging effect now is going to be immediate. As I start to turn it clockwise, it's going to be a little behind, or you're going to increase the delay time. Have a listen to this. This is great. I could get into this. I think somewhere around 10 o'clock on the dial for this manual control is the sweet spot. Sounds unreal. This might be my favorite of the modulation pedals. It's really musical. If you're unfamiliar with analog delay, the 8010 here does a really great job. I've been using analog delay now for like 15 years on my pedal board, and it's a sound I love when I'm playing clean or if I'm playing with a bit of dirt. But we'll start clean on neck pickup. And then if I kick in the overdrive, now that your ears have adjusted for it, let's turn it off. Still sounds nice, but you get just a beautiful sort of atmospheric kind of sound by using this. I really like that. I think it sounds really nice. Now, if you want the delay time to speed up, you've got to use the control on the left here. So this will bring the repeats a lot quicker. So that's almost like a rockabilly sound now. So you get the point, right? It's got that really fast sort of bathroom almost sounding delay. Yeah. Then we can turn up the echo control here, which is our mix, and get some sort of atmospheric sounds. So that's going to keep going. If I turn the mix control up, it's most likely going to oscillate. Yeah, it would. Absolutely. So if you like that sort of sound, you can get it out of this. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm going to talk about which pedals would make the cut on my little pedal board over here. So without question, I would pick an overdrive. I'm a big fan of overdrive. The fact this cleans up as well as it does, and it's as simple as it is, means it would get a spot on my board. Without question, it's very musical, and I really like overdrive as opposed to distortion. While the distortion pedal is good for people who like higher gain tones, I much prefer the flexibility of having my overdrive on and then clicking on or off a second boost pedal, which is where the FET preamp boost would come in. So I would put this in the first position. So I've got the FET preamp into the overdrive, giving me my rhythm guitar tone and also my lead solo tone. Now, my only criticism again with the FET boost is the fact that the flat and low cut switch doesn't really do much if you have the EQ positioned in a particular way. Once you start rolling up the bass control on the pedal is where you'll feel that more. But yeah, it's a kind of a bit of a switch that doesn't really need to be there in my opinion, being that we've got a 2-band EQ. But having a 2-band EQ is great. So just leave it to flat and set it up and you'll be in business. Now, while we have some really musical modulation pedals, and I think that this might be my favorite of the bunch just in terms of what it can do, I don't really use flanger. It's not an effect for my style of music that I would play a lot, so I would go with the analog chorus. I thought this thing sounded beautiful. Again, low noise floor, 2 controls, nice and simple to set up. It lands a spot in position number 3. And finally, you may have guessed it already, I would choose the analog delay AD10. This thing is so good. It kind of reminds me of the Wazacraft delay I reviewed a little while ago, so kind of looks like it a bit as well. But yeah, check it out. Nice and small, boom. So if I had to pick 4 for a gig, these would be the 4 that I would choose. It would give me everything I would need for any of my blues or sort of blues rock gigs that I would do, so that's great. Now, in terms of the other pedals, they're all really musical. The compressor is every bit as good as any other compressor that I've tested. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, but I still prefer having 26 dB of clean boost from a separate pedal. And while you can use this as a clean boost, for me personally, I prefer the preamp pedal. These are all very musical. The Octave pedal could be used in a pinch in place of the chorus pedal for a solo or something, but yeah, just be aware with this, it doesn't track chords at all, so you'll just be using it for single note stuff. While this is quite common for Octave pedals, it's definitely worth mentioning. The distortion pedal is a whole lot of fun on the Ultra and tube setting. The tube setting is probably my favorite. So yeah, if you're into high gain tones, go for this over the Overdrive, no questions about it. Where I think these will really find a target audience is for folks who want a less expensive effects pedal that still has magnesium alloy construction, nice soft switching, and analog circuitry, who might not be into, you know, the complexity of a lot of the sort of standalone digital solutions like the GP5. I love this. This was product of the year for me in 2025, but if I'm playing live, I always want analog effects. It's so much easier to make adjustments, and I could get a live pedal board set up like this for a few $100 and I'd be done. So I think that's a really great move, even when I start talking about adding the power supply in. So they've done a really great job overall. Let us know what you think. I hope this video has been helpful. And if you want to see a shootout between this pedal board and my regular one, let us know in the comment section. Thanks again. Catch you soon. See ya.